Good evening. If we could, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Sorry. Good evening. This is a regular Manatee Springs City Council meeting for June the 15th, 2021. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll all join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Yes, council members Judith Chandler. Present. John Shada. Julie Wolf. Here. Natalie Johnson. Here. Steve Brimner.
Mr. Bremner is excused.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune. Present. And Mayor John Graham.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next item is approval of the agenda. Council, you've all had a chance to review the agenda. So if there are no objections, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to pass the consent calendar as, I'm sorry, the agenda as written, I'm sorry.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Let's vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. On to public comment on non-agenda items. This is the portion of the meeting when we ask the public to make any brief comments regarding non-agenda items. We would request that the comments be 3 minutes or less. And I believe we have several people in the audience tonight wishing to speak. City Clerk, please, could you let us know?
Yes, Mayor. So our first is Tina Reister. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, Tina, if you would give us your full name and then your address, please. And before you get started, I would mention that we typically don't respond to comments made during the non-agenda items, but if you'd speak, you've got 3 minutes there. It's all yours.
All right. My name is Tina Reister. I live at 806 Midland Avenue, right in town. I've lived here for a long time. I wanted to make a comment on the art installation going in on Canyon Ave. I heard about that a long time ago, and then I didn't hear anything about it, and I thought, oh, good, that's not going to happen. Hopefully we can get trees. I feel now all of a sudden it's going in, and I feel this was sprung on us. I don't think it was publicized enough. A lot of us were really disappointed when the trees came down, and we just were hoping that we could have trees there again. And now we want live trees. We don't want artificial trees and flashing lights and interactive. We'd really like, well, a lot of people I know would really like real trees. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'm an art lover, too.
Thank you.
Okay, our second speaker on a non-agendized item is Jean Garrity.
Okay, Jean, you have the floor.
I swore I would never do this again, and here I am. It's nice to see all of you without your masks, and it's nice to meet in person. I'd just like to say that I think the
Well,
last...
Jean, if you could give us your name and address, please.
Yeah. Jean Garrity, 202 Canyon Avenue. And I just would like to say that I think it's been a long, stressful year and a half for everybody, and I congratulate you guys for hanging in and trying to, get things done in less than ideal circumstances. I just kind of wanted to follow up on what Tina said, and I went to the first public meeting regarding the art project, and I keep kind of close track of what's going on in town. I'm not obsessive about it, but I just didn't hear about it again. And then a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, I don't know when it was, when the trees went in, I was so excited. I was like, oh, good. We're going to get trees instead of the art installation. And it turned out that that was not true. And I think another thing that the pandemic has done is I think we're all kind of starved for getting along and being positive and things being great. And that being said, I'm not here to create controversy or anything, but I do have some suggestions for some things that I think could help moving forward. During the pandemic, I've been walking 10,000 to 14,000 steps every day through the Manitou corridor, and I see a lot and I think a lot about what's going on. And what occurred to me is that when there's something like this going on, the easiest way, it's not technical or digital or anything, is to post signage like we do for Planning Commission when there's, a business, conditional use permit or something like that. And I think it should be the same thing for public projects. And another thing, on public projects, for instance, the project down at the end of Soda Springs Park, a lot of us are really kind of interested in that and don't really know exactly what it is. I think it would be nice, not just for residents, but for our visitors, to post some artist renderings or whatever we have of the completed project so people could kind of get excited in advance about what's going up. And I too am an art lover. A couple of years ago when they did the art installation up at Green Mountain Falls with the netting and the lights over the lake, I was, wow. I really loved that. I went several times. And I think the thing that made that so special was the location. And although I live on Canyon Avenue, that location across the street smashed between the parking lot and on-street parking, I do not think is the ideal place for people to really enjoy an interactive art display. And part of that is the sidewalk is very narrow. It's hard for people. People want to take photos. This is the age of Instagram. They can't get a nice photo or video of what they're doing and seeing because they're too close. They'd either have to go into the parking lot or out into the street. So I think sometimes where it's, as they say in real estate, location, 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 I think it would be nice to have it in a space where there is a better backdrop and more sidewalk space so it could be more thoroughly enjoyed. And if today is an indicator, the last place any of us would have wanted to be today is out on that sidewalk in the 90-degree heat. But if it's somewhere where there's some shade and some benches and some amenities and some surrounding stuff that looks good, that's much better. Also, that's a narrow one-way street, a very congested area. I think maybe to have it somewhere where it's a little more noticeable and a little more accessible would be helpful. And I'm very optimistic that in a town of 5,000 people, that we can do better at communicating and cooperating. Because I think the one thing we all have in common is we love this town and we wouldn't live anywhere else. That's
Great,
it.
thank you, Jean. And Judy, do we have anyone else?
Those were the only two green cards that I had under the not on agenda speaking items. So I don't know if there's anyone in the audience.
Is
that
there
would like
anyone in
to
the
speak.
audience who wanted to speak on, anyone else who'd like to speak on a non-agenda item? Okay. Well, thank you. We'll push on. So the next item is the consent calendar. Tonight's consent calendar has 4 items on it. The first is approval of the June 1st, 2020 regular meeting minutes. Second, presentation of warrants processed from February through May 2021. The third, approved design contract with Jacobs Engineering. And the fourth, approved Ruxton design contract with JR Engineering. If council has no objections, I'd entertain a motion to accept and approve.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting and approving? the consent calendar, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Next item is item H. This is hearing H1, second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 0721, an ordinance amending the zoning code of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado to rezone the private property known as 16 Mayfair Avenue from commercial to general residential zoning. Okay, and I believe we okay, Michelle, if you'll present the information for the city.
Good evening, yes. So as the mayor indicated, this is a second reading, and nothing has changed from the first synopsis that I provided, but I'll just quickly go over it. 16 Mayfair has been a developed single-family property since sometime in the early 20s. At some point became commercially zoned, maybe as far back as 1953 when our initial zoning went into effect, or sometime in the 1970s when we had some other zoning actions. The current owners, excuse me, which are the original family, it's a group of the original family that still owns the property, want to improve the house. To be able to do that, we needed them to rezone it because under commercial, a standalone single-family house would not be an approved use, or they would have had to gone through a conditional use permit, and it just made more sense to get it into the correct zoning so that they could do the improvement on the property that they are planning to do. I did ask the property owner, after the last meeting, Counselor Chandler had a question about the trees, and she said that actually a lot of the trees on the property have been planted by family members over the years to commemorate, different events. And even if she wanted to, which she doesn't, she doubts anybody would let her take any of the trees down. So that was, I thought, a good thing to know. The applicant's architect, Ryan Kenneger with Affinity Consulting, is here if you have any other questions. She was up in Denver and is not able to get down here in time for this meeting. So Ryan said that he would attend in case there was something I couldn't answer. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. And since Ryan is here, I guess representing the family, perhaps it'd be appropriate to hear from him next. Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome.
And sir, if you'd state your full name and address, please.
My name is Ryan Kerniger. My address is 2803 Ute Drive in Colorado Springs. As Michelle mentioned, I'm just here representing Virginia Morgan on behalf of this rezone request tonight, and just want to thank you for hearing it and also for Planning Commission's approval of it. It has been the family home, and what we're doing at this point is creating it for year-round use for the family. Up until this point, it's been a summer-only home, and it's, even in the summer, as on a day like today, brutal, just trying to be in there. So all we're doing is bringing it up to energy code, doing the electrical right, adding, improving a kitchen to what a kitchen would be like currently. And so that kicked off a whole process with the city to rezone and clean up all those smaller lot lines that were created, individual parcels from back in the 20s, into something that's more solid. That's part of the next step that we're going through after this rezone. That'll be the minor subdivision. But the rezone gets that commercial off of there and just lets it be their family home. So thank you for hearing it. Thanks for reading it tonight.
Thank you. And I guess at this point, council, if anyone has questions for Mr. Kerniger, did I say that right? Okay. This might be a convenient time to ask him. Councilor Chandler?
So after reading the Planning Commission documents, it's my understanding, so I just want to clarify, so it will basically be 3 lots, so it'll be the house with the addition, and then 2 lots that will be potentially for future use or sale. Is that my understanding of how that will be replatted?
That's the intent.
Or utilized?
As far as we know right now, it was the simplest way to keep the house on one lot that was contiguous with it. And then for the potential future use, again, the current owner, Virginia Morgan, has no intent to develop it, but it was the simplest way, in counseling with the surveyors to create 3 lots. And then in the future, if a child or grandchild wanted to do something with it, it was the most reasonable potential future use. But I'll just make it clear, at the present time, I have no work on any kind of future development. There's no development plans. And all Virginia is trying to do at this point is get that family house cleaned up and done up right for the family to use, so.
Thank you, you've answered my question, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I was just, and this has nothing to do with the, I'm just curious, does the family actually intend to live there?
Virginia has a home in Woodland Park. Currently, what happens is, it's my understanding that family members come, most of her family's in Kansas, so they come to Colorado, as has been the tradition for a long time, to use it. But now it's going to become something that in the winter, for the first time ever, they can come out here and visit. So it's not a rental property. It's never been used as a short-term rental property for income at any time, to my knowledge. It's only so that the family can come year-round. But it is, yeah, it's relatives. And then I think, as Michelle may have mentioned, I think there are 12 folks on the family who are the owners, but Virginia represents them in the trust, so. Yep.
Any other council questions or comments at this point? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll push on to the public hearing portion of this. So I will declare this public hearing to be open. Anyone who wants to speak to this may. Would appear there's no one to do so. Judy, did anyone else? No, okay, so we don't have anyone else wanting to speak, so I will declare the public hearing closed and bring it back to discussion. Council, any questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion then.
I'll move to approve the ordinance amending the zoning change.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. Next item is I-1, appointment of Colin McAllister as a regular member of the Parks and Recreation Board, Parab. So Denise, do we have, I don't think Mr. McAllister is here.
Yes,
No.
so if I may say something on that. So he was not able to come tonight. Amber, did you want to go ahead and?
So I spoke to Danu on this item. So Colin is unable to come tonight, and so is she. But she thought her letter and all the sporting documentation was enough for you guys to make a decision on appointing him. So.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, council, since we've had that information in our packets, I suspect we're probably reasonably well informed on this. We could probably just go ahead and move to a motion. Let's council. Mayor Pro Tem?
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion, but I wanted to say that I was at the Parab meeting last week where he attended, and he was a great participant in Parab and appears to be a very good candidate for Parab. So I would move that we appoint Colin McAllister as a regular member of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. And the next item, in the same vein, appointment of Danelle Rogi. I hope I said that properly.
And she is here.
Oh,
and
she is.
So
Okay,
she's
great.
here if you have any questions.
As a regular member of Parks and Recreation Board. Well, Danelle, welcome. Why don't you take the podium there and tell us a little bit about yourself, and if you give us your address, please.
Sure. Danielle Raggi, 17 Ute Trail. Colorado Springs native, been back in Manitou for 5 years. Adopted Shoshone Spring Park 2 years ago. Obviously, COVID kind of came into play there. Was invited by Danu and Jenna Gallus to even just submit a packet. So I appreciate your consideration. It is important to me to develop areas in this town where our children, specifically, and families can restore themselves. But there are so many pocket parks in this town, I think, that are underserved. I have 15 years of grant writing experience, and I think that that's the most beneficial attribute that I could contribute to the board. Nonprofit heart, tons of philanthropy experience. It would be an honor to serve on this board.
Great, thank you. Councilors, do you have any questions for Danelle? I guess not. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And of course, we've also reviewed, we had the opportunity to review her packet materials in the packet. So I would, I guess, entertain a motion at this point.
I can-
Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure. Danielle was also at the meeting last week. She participated, and Parab was very excited. And I will tell you that Parab has been short members for a long time, so it's very exciting to have 2 new members and 2 what would appear to be very high-quality members. So I would like to approve the appointment of Danielle Roga as a regular member of the Parks and Recreation Board.
Great, thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Counselor Wolf. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. Item I3, presentation and consideration of approval of Resolution 0821, a resolution approving signing an agreement to the terms and conditions and also signing the assurances of compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 from the U.S. Department of the Treasury in order to receive funds from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. And speaking to us tonight on that will be Becca Davis. Becca?
Yes, first I need the control for the PowerPoint.
Becca, can you bring this closer so that they can, for
Okay.
anybody at home? Thank you.
Oh my goodness, this is kind of. Oh, this one? Mhm. Okay. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay. So this is really exciting to me that this money is coming to the city. Back on March 11th, 2021, President Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act into law. And as a senior White House advisor described it, this is a once-in-a-generation type of funding opportunity. So this law is going to provide Manitou Springs with $1,354,755 in 2 equal tranches. Now that's a word I'd never heard before, tranches. That was a new one for me. It means funding, and there's 2 of them. We get one by July 7th, and then the second will be 1 year after that first one. So it'll be after July 7th of 2022. And then we have until December 2024 to spend the money. And we have an application deadline of June 27th to apply to the state to get the money. And then, like I said, we'll get that first tranche, in 5 to 10 days. Super quick. Now, this resolution is to comply with the U.S. Treasury's requirement to sign 2 documents in order to receive this funding. And the first one is this agreement to terms and conditions. And then the second one is assurances of compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I think, was Lyndon Johnson in office at that time? Let's see here. Let's see if I understood my directions here. Ha! Okay, so the eligible uses of the funds. I'm going to go through these pretty darn quick. The first is public health expenditures related to COVID-19. Second is addressing the negative economic impacts caused by COVID-19. Third is serving the hardest hit communities and family. Fourth is revenue replacement due to reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19. Then premium pay for essential workers. And then finally, the one that I'm most interested in, investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Now, there's some ineligible uses, and they include offsetting tax reductions or used to delay a tax or delay a tax increase, pension deposits, debt service, legal settlements or judgments, deposits to rainy day funds, and general infrastructure spending outside of the water, sewer, and broadband investments. Now, I'm a member of the Governmental Finance Officers Association of the U.S. and Canada, and they provide lots of useful information throughout the year. And one thing they did was they offered some guidelines on how to utilize these funds. And the first is to remember that this is non-reoccurring. So the use should be applied primarily to non-reoccurring expenditures. And then second, if you use the ARPA funds to cover operating deficits caused by COVID-19, this should be considered temporary because it is non-reoccurring. And if your budget continues to run into problems, you're going to have to use other restraints. You can't count on this fund money in the future. Like that White House advisor said, this is a once-in-a-generation funding. Now, and then their final recommendation is that investment in critical infrastructure is particularly well-suited use of ARPA funds because it is a non-recurring expenditure that can be targeted to strategically important long-term assets that provide benefits over many years. Okay, so staff has had a lot of discussions about this, about what to recommend to City Council. And we all 100% agreed that the water tank, an additional water storage tank at the water treatment plant, would be the highest and best purpose of this funding. And there's multiple reasons for this. And the first is this means we can store as much treated water. I mean, we are allowed to store as much treated water as required for our operational needs. And so this would double our water storage capacity up at the water storage treatment plant. And the second, I think we all know climate change is going to cause more drought conditions in the future. I mean, this is pretty obvious. And the third, now this is something I don't know if people are aware, but that storage tank up at the water treatment plant, the Mesa storage tank, which, by the way, can store 2 million gallons, it's not in good shape. It hasn't been in good shape in a while. But the problem is it needs to be emptied out in order to be repaired. But in order to empty it, you need to have a place to put all that water. So we haven't been able to empty it and fix it. So once we get this additional water storage tank, which will also be 2 million gallons, we'll finally be able to deal with the Mesa tank, which is something that's been long on the list of things that need to be done. Okay, and then an extra storage tank would double the amount of water available for the city's firefighting capabilities. I hadn't even thought of that when Jeff Jones said that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. And then finally, if there is a major water distribution line break, that extra tank would help maintain the city's water supply with less impact on the citizens and the businesses. Oops. Okay. So the current estimate of the cost for a new water tank is $1 million. And then we have that extra $354,755, which we would hold as in reserve as a contingency for change orders, because change orders do happen. Now, this water tank has been in the 5-year capital improvement plan, and because it was so expensive, they split it in half in 2022 and 2023. But they also didn't have enough in the 5-year capital improvement plan. It's been in there listed at $700,000 if you add the two sums together. And the way it was going to be funded was going for a loan through the Colorado Resources Empower Development Authority, which is a great agency for small cities like us and our water infrastructure needs. But the thing is, we have so many needs. If we can find another way to fund this extremely expensive project, then we can use that money that we would have borrowed for that for other needs in terms of water infrastructure. So that would be just really great. And just to say that in our 2019 water sewer study rates, that water treatment tank, not water treatment tank, water storage tank, sorry, was included in the study with the idea of borrowing the money and at $700,000. So the fact that it had gone up so high means that we were going to have to go ahead and do another water sewer rate study anyway to square it up, because it's falling off. But now maybe our rates won't have to increase as much. We might even be able to adjust that once we get this money for this through this way. Okay, so next slide. I think I've addressed most of this already, but I did want to mention that this has been long in the works. And back in 2009 with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009, we wanted to include that tank then. But that wasn't grants. Well, there was a little bit of grant, but most of it was loans. But they were really good loans because they were interest-free. And we had to drop out the tank because we could only take on a certain amount of loans, and the tank would have put us above the amount we could borrow. So we had to take it out, which was disappointing. And let's see what's next. Next steps. So the next steps are that City Council approves staff recommendations and approves the resolution, and then the staff submits certification through DOLA's grant portal, and then we would receive that first tranche of $677,388 within 5 to 10 days of the certification, and then the design work would begin. Questions?
Counselor Chandler, please.
So we can store all of the treated water if we want, right? So,
For operational needs.
right, so it would have to be treated for us to store additional water. So with our current tank that's aging before our eyes, I don't even know how old that tank is.
I don't either.
I mean, if we didn't have a reserve tank and something were to happen to that tank,
It would be catastrophic.
it would be catastrophic, yes. And also, I just want to say that it is unfortunate that we are going to see more climate-related heating and drought because we can't seem to get our act together to do something swiftly about it. So I really feel like not only is this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get a new water tank. And I am wholly in support of that happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Other comments or questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem, please.
Just out of curiosity, I'm very curious tonight. How many days does 2 million gallons last in Manitou?
Darn it, I need Kirk.
I can tell you the weekly report I can pull up real quick, which it says how much we use per month, and you can average that out. So give me a moment and I can tell you that.
While she's looking, I'm also hugely in support of this. It seems like, a huge gift that it would be like looking a gift horse in the mouth if we didn't take advantage of this. So thanks for the work staff has done on this
It's been a group effort.
yeah.
And while Denise is looking the numbers up, do we have other comments or questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem?
Sorry, if we don't have the 300K if we don't have to use that for contingency on the contract, can that be used to repair the old tank?
Yeah, it can be used for all of those reasons I listed already.
Okay, so we don't have to give it back.
No, we don't have to give
Okay.
it back. We definitely find another use for it. It may, if nothing else, more water infrastructure needs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So,
And it says that we have to do an updated rate study.
Yeah.
So in fact, we can't use all the money from the increased rates to, accelerate our capital plan on water infrastructure.
definitely something to consider when we do the rate study.
Okay, so that would be something we could choose, or at least look at.
Right,
So, okay,
exactly.
all right, thanks.
Can I make a comment on that? We may or may not have to do a rate study. If we find another project that's close to that and you guys approve it, then that would not require necessarily another rate study. We just put that into it. So those are conversations we'll have as we move forward. And we have to true up at the end of this year anyway, so we'll do a true up and then go from there.
Thank you. Natalie?
I guess I just wanted to congratulate staff on having all of this in place already so that when the funding became available, we could move quickly and follow a strategic plan, which is really
It's already in
exciting.
place, yeah.
So
Yeah, we
thank
like
you.
to try to be nimble when we can.
Yeah, so.
May we use 16 million gallons for the month of May. Yeah, couple of days. The other thing I think, just to correct, is the tank is not in awful shape, but there is maintenance that needs to be done, and it's been deferred maintenance, so this really does allow us to do that. I just didn't want people to think, oh, the tank is, there is maintenance that we need to do, but we can get that done when we start this.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for as long as I've been on council, so it's good to know.
Wasn't there a leak? Is that what I read ages ago?
I hadn't heard about that, just that we couldn't really address its issues until we emptied it.
So what are the maintenance issues? Are we allowed to know?
You know, I don't know.
There's some cleaning that needs to be done. I know at the bottom, we need to go in and clean it. There was a liner that we need to look at replacing. What else was on there, Roy? I don't have all the details, but we can get you that. I can tell you
don't
exactly
have to
what the
bother.
maintenance is.
I was just curious.
Yeah, so a lot of it is regular maintenance that you're supposed to do so often that we have not been able to do. But I'll send out an email tomorrow to all of council of the exact maintenance that we're looking at doing.
Thank you. Do you have other comments, questions from council? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All right, any further discussion? No, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Becca, and thanks to all of
thank
staff
you.
for preparing that. It's nice to know what you want when Santa Claus offers you the opportunity to have Christmas early. Great, excellent. I think this is, this is a fundamental thing. No one in Manitou, as much as we might have different flavors and preferences, nobody turns down drinking water. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, item I4, resolution number 0821, a resolution designating July 30th as the International Day of Friendship in the City of Manitou Springs. This idea has been brought forward by Alex Treefy. I'm sorry, I have, okay, on the agenda list, I have 0821 is the, but you have 09? Oh, okay. I guess I may have misstated the name of the resolution. Anyway, this is the resolution regarding International Day of Friendship. And council, you can check in your packets to get the actual wording of the resolution. Alex, just give us a second here, Alex, and we'll check the number of the resolution.
We corrected that, Judy, did we?
Okay, so it appears we did make the correction in Civic Clerk. And so that should be, but I think what happened was the file that got uploaded under the PDF part of it wasn't the correct one. So the correct resolution number is 0921. And that should be reflected on the actual document as
Okay.
well.
0921. Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, Alex, you have the floor.
All right, Mayor Graham, City Council. It's good to see you all. My name's Alex Treffry. I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Manitou Springs. This will be a quick presentation on a resolution considering the International Day of Friendship. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide a very brief history.
Alex, I hate to interrupt, but can you get closer so
Oh,
that
of
people from
course.
home can hear? Thank you.
Absolutely. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide a brief history on the International Day of Friendship, as well as discuss why this applies to Manitou Springs. So the background for this is it was first proclaimed in 2011 by the United Nations General Assembly, quote, with the idea that friendship between peoples, countries, cultures, and individuals can inspire peace efforts and build bridges between communities. In my very brief Google research, I could state that few, if any, municipalities have made a similar proclamation, at least in the United States. This applies to Manitou Springs for a couple of reasons. We were ranked the third friendliest city in the United States by Expedia.com based on traveler reviews from January 2019 to December 2020. They used words like amicable and friendly, things like that, and saw how many results we got, and we ranked third. So that was amazing, and it's also in line with the overall outlook of Manitou Springs, as I'm sure you all know. This idea came up just in a brief meeting with the Creative District Chamber and city staff on a way to, you know, not just remember this for the 2 months after we got recognized for it, but to make it like an annual thing. And of course, along the lines with Plan Manitou and our vision statement in there, which is, quote, we are a welcoming, accessible, and vibrant small community at the foot of Pikes Peak, and that we preserve and protect our heritage and natural beauty and are a renowned destination for arts, culture, recreation, lifelong learning, and wellness. And it doesn't just have to be a day that, you know, is on the calendar. It can mean more than that. Nothing set in stone, but, you know, ideas could be, you know, community events or potlucks or something else, you know, whatever the ideas are. And it's a great way to remember what makes Manitou Springs so amazing. And with that, I'll take questions.
Questions for Alex?
I have a comment.
Excuse me. Okay, Counselor Wolf, please.
Thanks for doing this. My comment is more to us, the other city council members, is one of the things you mentioned in your presentation was that we are an accessible community, and we're really not very accessible. We have a lot of ADA violations where we can't have people in the pool, or, you know, the handicap accessibility is it's unlawful. It's not in compliance. So I just want to encourage all of us to try and keep that in mind when we come back to revisit the budget, to try and actually do something about that instead of just sitting back and waiting to get sued again. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Wolf. Counselor Chandler?
Thank you. I think it's a wonderful thing. I would just like to add, and I really hope that I have the support of council in inserting in the second whereas statement of the resolution 0921 to add the LGBTQIA community, which I think is really important and wasn't listed here.
I'd be in support of that. Might as well make it comprehensive.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Chandler. Other comments? In that case, I think we can move on to a motion. Counselor Chandler, since you have suggested modification, perhaps you'd like to make the motion?
Yes, I'm sorry. I move to approve Resolution 0921, a resolution designating July 30th as the International Day of Friendship in the city of Colorado Springs, amending the second whereas statement to include LGBTQIA community. I'm sorry, sorry. I'm going to reread that. Resolution 0921, a resolution designating July 30th as the International Day of Friendship in the city of Manitou Springs, amending the second whereas statement to include the LGBTQIA community.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
I wonder how many other communities have entertained this and ended up in a fist fight over Friendship Day. Okay, so moving right along. Item J, receive or act on council correspondence. Council, you got anything? Let's start. Mr. Shada, do you have anything? Natalie?
I did attend the Metro Board meeting, and I think ultimately everything's been addressed, but they just had concerns about getting regular construction updates since it impacts access to the Shmishni lot and the Wichita lot. And so, but I believe all of that's moving forward, so that's it.
Great, thank you. Councilor Chandler, nothing? I don't really have anything either. Mayor Pro Tem? Julie?
I got an email from somebody, and I didn't know how to answer it, wanting to know, what's happening with the cell tower that's supposed to be coming into town, and where is it going to be, and will the tower be safe, in terms of emitting radiation? It's the 5G thing. And I know we had a presentation about that some time ago, but I couldn't recall if there was anything definite that was determined, so I just suggested they consult with Denise. Do you know, though?
Is it the one on Lulu's? I know that was brought, but other than that, I don't know of any other cell towers coming, but I can do some research. But that's the only one that I know of that has been brought to this council.
Yeah, so she may just contact you.
Okay, great, and I'll do some research.
Great, thank you. Oh, Councilor Chandler?
I apologize. I just wanted to tell everybody that SB 1162, Senate Bill 1162, did pass the State House and is on its way to Governor Paulus's desk to sign, and this is the law that will ban single-use plastics, and it will go in effect July 1st, 2023, and I think it's just a really opportune time for this council to get together and start moving in that direction. So you can, the full context of the Senate bill, you can pull up online, but it does affect styrofoam takeout containers and single-use plastics and plastic bags, which I'm so excited about. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good point. Okay, let's go on to the city administrator's report.
Good evening. A few items. The swimming pool is still closed at this point, at least the large pool, due to an air leak. We think we have determined it's in one of the skimmer lines. So we're looking at if we can get that repaired. They do have to go through the deck to get to it. So we're working on that. Otherwise, the kiddie pool and the hot tub are open, and the weight room. But we're hoping we can get at least the pool running again. But the pool does need a lot of work. It's over 50 years old. It really has lasted way past its time. So it's time to think about what we're going to do with that swimming pool, and I know we're talking about it for next year's budget. The Clarksey and Mountain View roads are being, asphalt's being put down, and so that'll be, I think they did that today for Mountain View, so that's continuing and should be starting to finish up. We are looking at tomorrow removing more signs on Manitou Avenue. I did a good walkthrough and with Denise and some residents on some of the sign pollution, so we're going to see if we can remove some more signs, especially the extra parking. I think there's plenty of parking signs to know where to park, so we're going to remove some and try to clean it up. The Colorado Springs engineer did do a study at a four-way stop on Manitou and El Paso, and believes it would be doable. So we are going to meet with CDOT to talk about a four-way stop. Mountain Metro is really excited because then they can bring their shuttle down Manitou Avenue and not down El Paso, which really just can't handle a shuttle that size. So we will keep you informed on that. And then I believe Pike Ride will be installed in Shriver Park tomorrow and Lulu's. So that'll be exciting to get that running. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Denise?
Yeah, I have several items. First, I want to hand out to you the 2021 CML Special Conference. We do have funding in the budget for this, so if you would like to attend, please let Lisa know, and we will get you registered. So I'm handing out the agenda, and you would need to let her know which conferences you wanted to attend, et cetera. So if you could please look at that. It's a great training, I think. Pro Tem, if you want to say a comment about this?
Yeah, I went 2 years ago, and I would highly encourage anyone to go. It's you meet you get to do a ton of networking and hear about what other communities are doing and how they're doing it. So, and bring back great lessons learned to Manitou.
Great, so if you could let us know on that, that would be great. And then a couple of things I do want to give you an update on. Someone mentioned earlier the cemetery is now live through the Community Foundation. Encourage anyone who would like to give to help with the fundraising. We're looking at putting security cameras and those type of things there, and to help replace some of the damage that was done. So please, it's on peaklivingmanitousprings.org is the website. So if you would like to give, please do that. The police department, they received 1 truck of the new vehicles, and they are expecting the new Tahoe in September. So we will then have 2 new vehicles for there. The fire training structure public outreach event is this Thursday at 4:30, and it's going to be a hybrid. It's going to be both in person and Zoom. So that's this Thursday. June 22nd, which is next week, will be, I think next week, will be the joint session for City Council and the Planning Commission for the zoning update. So that entire one will be dedicated to that. Save the Library Task Force will host Ward 3 outreach event on Thursday, June 24th, and that's via Zoom too. So those will be happening. The other thing is planning is completing an audit on the entire zoning map. It's going to take about 3 to 4 months to complete. We're going all the way back to 1950. We're looking at every single thing that's on that zoning map and make sure that it's correct. With that, we will find some errors. So I just want to be able to share that. We're going to find them, we're going to be transparent, and we're going to put them out and let the public know what we have found. So as you hear those things, you know that the good news is we're going through and we're really correcting information that has been out there and making sure that it's accurate. So I wanted to share that with everybody. The other question is we would like to do a new city council group picture. Wondering if we could do it next week at about 5:40. If everybody could show up at 5:40, Alex would go out back and take a picture of you in the park, and we could take a group picture at that time. Is Councilor Bremner back next week, Judy?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and check
Okay.
his email.
Okay, we'll check and see, but if he's back in, if that would work for everybody else, we'd like to get a group picture taken.
I'm not sure either. He said he was going to miss this meeting, and he thought he was going to be late last week and wasn't. So I think he would have mentioned, if he planned to be absent next week, I think he would have mentioned it, but I'm not sure.
So if that worked for everybody to show up at 5:40, that's all we need is 5:40, and then we can get a group picture taken with the new council members. Yeah, we could just meet in Mansions Park if that works.
Any objection from council to that? Okay, let's plan on meeting at 5:40 then.
Okay, great. And then a couple more things. I attended the Manitou Springs Creative District Board meeting. Some good news that I can share is the Smithsonian Magazine has said that Manitou Springs is one of the 15 best small cities or towns to visit in the nation. So we got another recognition at the Smithsonian level. We'll be putting that out, but I thought I would share that. That's really amazing news again. The other thing is they're going to be doing some baseline data study, and it's just going to have somebody out there collecting information after July 4th at El Paso Boulevard. They're going to be from 10 to 2, and it's really to help with the art project, the Art on the Streets project. They'll do pre-study and get some data, and then do it after the next year again, after the art project has been on, so we can have some measurements, whether art really did slow people down and the stop signs, et cetera. So they'll be doing that. Other than that, I do not have any other information. What I have to get back with you on is maintenance for the tank, which we already sent an email, and we'll get that to you, and the cell tower. Those are the 2 items I show that you wanted me to follow up with.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Parker, this is a very unusual meeting in that we haven't had to ask you a question, and you've been silent all.
It's just the
All
way you
evening.
want it. The less your lawyer says, the better. Yeah, no, I feel like a little badly that I haven't had anything to add tonight, but I think that's a good thing, so.
Well, okay, we want to give the opportunity to speak if.
No, I appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you.
all righty.
John, may I
Yeah.
ask something before we adjourn?
Sure.
I was just remembering back to the first 2 people who presented, Jean and Tina Reisterer, and I can't recall, is it something that council would want to think about, to reevaluate whether we want that interactive art piece to go there as opposed to somewhere else? I'd be open to looking at or considering alternative locations that the Creative District may want to recommend, because I don't want to just blow that off. So I just didn't know if this is the right time, but I'd like to see if we could take some temperature of the other council members before that installation gets installed.
I think anytime a citizen has a concern, it's probably a good idea to listen. So let's just go around the table here and see council, what we might want to do. I guess maybe the first thing, Denise, is if you could bring us up to speed with where we're at. And I know this wasn't on the agenda, but if we maybe just talk about this briefly, we can make some progress.
You bet. Let me give you an update. They've been working on it for a couple of years. It was one of the things that Megan has been working on for the last 6 months. They're getting ready to install tomorrow. So installation starts tomorrow. It went through the process, and the Creative District went through it and approved it and came to council at some point. I don't have that date, but it's been through the process. It was delayed due to COVID-19. So it would be difficult, not impossible, but yeah, they're getting ready. Tomorrow starts the installation of this.
Have the concrete pads been poured?
They go tomorrow.
Oh, they start, okay.
Yep.
thanks.
I just wanted to make a quick correction. It's the Manitou Springs Arts Council that led the process, not the Creative District.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so they're starting tomorrow. Okay, and
If I could.
please, okay.
Yeah,
Nancy?
there was quite a bit of process that went into, community process that went into this. And it was discussed several times at council, previous council. And there were renderings and so on put in the bulletin at the time. I think their suggestions about, notifying is a good thing. But it's been in the works and approved for quite a while now, and paid for. It was already paid for too, or half of it was paid for, I think.
Well, I wasn't saying we should throw it away. I was suggesting that maybe we consider putting it someplace else so that we don't have people standing in the road taking pictures, because there were some pretty good points made about that. But I guess if it's going to go in, then it can always come out someday if people are really upset.
It was also specifically a tribute to the trees that were taken out there.
Yeah, but not everybody thinks
could
a
comment.
fake tree is better
nothing's-
than a real one, tribute or not.
Nothing's ever going to replace those trees that came down. I don't care what art installation it is, but I am happy to report that 2 trees were planted there at that site. I can't even remember when we planted them, but they were a larger caliper tree than we have planted in the city prior. So hopefully we'll get good growth. And those trees are on each side of the actual art install. So got 2 more trees planted.
Yeah, that was one thing and when I came on, one of the things I heard is the promise that we would plant those trees, right? And we hadn't, and then also the art installations. So again, we can make change. It's just we're at the 11th hour, but if council decides that they would like to do something, we can definitely take that direction.
Well, let's go around the table then. We'll start with Mr. Shada. What are your thoughts, John? Natalie?
I'm comfortable with us moving forward as well, but again, I did also appreciate the comments that were made today that we can incorporate into future projects.
I agree with Natalie, the ship has sailed, it's going to be installed tomorrow, but again, good community input for today, thanks.
Good, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I agree with the comments made.
Thank you. Julie?
Oh, and I'll go on record as not supporting the location.
Okay, thank you. And this is one of those, I've got a little bit of misgivings on it. I think we've gone through the process. I don't know that we'll ever have everybody happy. You know, and we still have power lines over the top of it. So if we were to plant trees, when we have trees, they're, it still seems sort of illogical to me that we didn't bury those power lines when we might have. I guess my thought is the ship has sailed and we'll push on. If we need to relocate it, I guess we can do that. Mr. Cheney?
Yeah, just to add that we did look at the site and the two islands in the parking area, and looks like we might be able to put 2 more trees there. So we are considering that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Just so you know, when we chose the trees, we chose dwarf choke cherries. So we're not putting trees that are going to get so large that they're going to be a real problem with the power lines, so just so you know.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah. Denise?
I do want to say I sent the resident an email thanking her and also saying the suggestion about communication and signs up. I mean, Soda Springs, that would be great if we had a sign that showed what it was going to look like and when it's going to be done. So I'll be taking that to the department heads tomorrow to discuss.
Okay, thank you. All right, I guess that pretty much concludes the business for tonight. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
The motion,
Second.
we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.